A soft breeze drifted through the small village of Willowbrook, rustling the leaves of the ancient oak trees and carrying the scent of freshly baked bread from the bakery. The villagers paid little attention to the wind, unaware that it carried with it the spirit of a mischievous ghost. The ghost wind had once been a playful child named Elora, who loved to make others laugh. Even in her ghostly form, she couldn't resist playing pranks on the villagers, like knocking over laundry baskets or making hats fly off heads. One day, Elora decided to have some fun with old Mr. Thompson, the grumpy village blacksmith. As he hammered away at a horseshoe, she sent a gust of wind to scatter his tools across the workshop. Mr. Thompson grumbled and cursed, shaking his fist at the sky, while Elora giggled invisibly. But when she saw the old man sit down, exhausted and sighing deeply, her ghostly heart softened. She remembered how lonely she had been before she became the wind, and a pang of sadness filled her. Elora watched as Mr. Thompson stared out the window, his eyes filled with memories of better days. Feeling a twinge of guilt, she decided to help him instead. The next day, the wind gently carried stray nails and lost tools back to Mr. Thompson's workbench. Mr. Thompson was puzzled but grateful, and for the first time in years, he smiled as he worked. Elora realized that making others happy didn't always have to involve tricks. As the sun set over Willowbrook, the ghost wind swirled around the village, a little less playful but a lot more content. She decided to use her powers to bring small joys to the villagers, like lifting a child's kite higher into the sky or making a field of flowers dance. Elora's playful nature wasn't completely gone, though. She still enjoyed making people laugh, like when she sent a gust of wind to make the church bell ring unexpectedly during a quiet service. The villagers began to speak of the friendly wind that brought laughter and comfort to their lives. They didn't know it was Elora, but they appreciated the kindness she brought with every breeze. Elora watched over Willowbrook with a gentle affection, her ghostly heart no longer heavy with loneliness. She had found a new way to connect with the living, and it made her feel almost alive again. One night, she spotted a young couple arguing under the oak tree. The ghost wind swirled around them, playfully tugging at their clothes until they both started laughing, their quarrel forgotten. As they walked away, hand in hand, Elora felt a warmth she hadn't known in a long time. She realized that even in death, she could still spread love and happiness. Her antics became legendary in the village, and people began to look forward to the playful breezes that brought smiles to their faces. But as much as she enjoyed her new role, Elora sometimes felt a deep sadness. She missed being seen, being heard, being alive. Yet, she knew that her place was now among the winds, unseen but always present. The villagers never knew the true nature of the wind, but they cherished it as a symbol of hope and joy. And as for Elora, she continued her gentle mischief, content with her small, invisible role in the world. One day, a traveler arrived in Willowbrook, a young man named Samuel, who had a peculiar sensitivity to the supernatural. He felt the presence of the ghost wind immediately, sensing something special in the air. Elora was intrigued by Samuel, sensing that he might be able to communicate with her. She began to follow him around the village, playfully tugging at his scarf and ruffling his hair. Samuel, aware of the ghostly presence, started to speak to the wind, hoping to make contact. "If you're there, give me a sign," he whispered, and Elora responded by swirling the leaves around his feet in a graceful dance. Delighted by this interaction, Samuel decided to stay in Willowbrook for a while. He spent his days exploring the village and its surroundings, always accompanied by the playful ghost wind. The villagers noticed the strange connection between Samuel and the wind, but they dismissed it as coincidence. Only Samuel knew the truth that he had made a friend in the invisible spirit. One evening, as Samuel sat by the river, Elora decided to reveal herself to him in a more tangible form. The wind swirled around him, and slowly, the faint outline of a young girl appeared before his eyes. Samuel gasped, but he wasn't afraid. "You're the ghost, aren't you?" he asked softly, and Elora nodded, her ethereal form shimmering in the twilight. Over the next few days, Samuel and Elora spent hours talking, sharing stories of their lives. Elora told him about her days as a living child, and Samuel shared tales of his travels. Despite her ghostly form, Elora found herself growing attached to Samuel. He was the first person in years who could truly see her, and she cherished their conversations. But as their friendship deepened, Elora began to feel a sadness she hadn't experienced in a long time. She knew that Samuel couldn't stay in Willowbrook forever, and the thought of being alone again was unbearable. Samuel, sensing Elora's sadness, tried to comfort her. "I'll always remember you," he promised. But Elora knew that memories would fade, and she would be left alone once more. The day came when Samuel had to leave Willowbrook. As he packed his bags, Elora watched silently, her ghostly form flickering with emotion. Before he left, Samuel stood by the river one last time, feeling the gentle breeze of the ghost wind around him. "Goodbye, Elora," he whispered, and for a moment he felt a soft, warm touch on his cheek. Elora watched as Samuel walked away, her heart heavy with sorrow. She knew that she would always be a part of the wind, but it didn't make the loneliness any easier. As the years passed, the memory of Samuel faded, but the ghost wind continued to bring laughter and comfort to the villagers of Willowbrook. Elora had found a way to carry on, even though her heart still ached with the loss of her friend. As time went on, a new generation of villagers grew up in Willowbrook, unaware of the true nature of the friendly wind that danced through their lives. Elora watched over them with a bittersweet affection, her once playful spirit now tinged with a quiet melancholy. One day, a terrible storm descended upon the village, unlike anything the villagers had ever seen. The wind howled with fury, and the skies darkened as if night had fallen in the middle of the day. Elora felt the storm's anger and knew that it was not a natural occurrence. Another spirit had arrived, a vengeful ghost seeking to wreak havoc on the living. The ghost wind tried to protect the villagers, guiding them to safety and sheltering them from the worst of the storm's wrath. But the vengeful spirit was strong, and Elora struggled to keep it at bay. As the storm raged on, Elora realized that the only way to stop the vengeful spirit was to confront it directly. She gathered all her strength and faced the ghost in the heart of the storm. The battle between the two spirits was fierce, with winds clashing and lightning striking the ground. Elora fought with all her might, determined to protect the village she had come to love. In the end, Elora managed to weaken the vengeful spirit, but it came at a great cost. Her own energy was nearly depleted, and she knew that she couldn't continue to exist as the ghost wind for much longer. As the storm finally began to subside, Elora made one last effort to bring peace to Willowbrook. She used the last of her strength to send a gentle breeze through the village, calming the frightened villagers and bringing a sense of hope. With her energy spent, Elora felt herself fading away. She knew that her time as the ghost wind was over, but she took comfort in knowing that she had protected the people she cared about. As the storm clouds cleared and the sun returned, the villagers emerged from their homes, marveling at the sudden calm. They didn't know that the friendly wind that had once brought them joy was now gone. But in the hearts of the villagers, the memory of the ghost wind lived on. They spoke of the wind that had saved them during the storm, and stories of the playful, kind breeze were passed down through generations. Ilara's spirit moved on, finally at peace, knowing that she had made a difference in the lives of those she had touched. Her laughter, her kindness, and her love for the village would never be forgotten. The ghost wind was gone, but the legacy of Ilara, the playful spirit who had brought so much joy and comfort to Willowbrook, would live on forever.